下了飞机直接赶到这里了。
Yes, just off the plane.
这次我们见面，又面临着一个众所周知的一个世界，政治或者经济一个重大调整的时候，我们又再次见面。
We are so committed to doing business here in China.
北京已经到了春天了，希望你能感受到北京春天的活力。整整1年过去了，应该说世界的政治和经济的形势发生了巨大的变化。
That was good for investors like Lilly to see continued embrace of foreign investment and changes to policies to make that more productive.
I have been and still I am a very strong supporter of free trade, particularly when it comes to technology.
今天我们来访，你的来访啊，我们可以就一些这个宝马在中国的发展，中欧之间以及对世界的形势，我们都可以做一些深入的交谈。
It seems that tariffs are a new language the world would like to speak. That is true for Europe, but that is even more so for the United States. We would like to underline again, and we've done that before, that we are a company who foster free trade and cooperation and open discussion on disputes, whatever that is. Tariffs will always have two losers and no winner.
The annual speech to the international business community started afresh with substantiated examples that led to a clear conclusion. The momentum of the second largest economy in the world is on the rise.
这一派红火景象，反映的是中国快速释放的消费需求和巨大的市场潜力。我经常讲一句话：任何产品和服务，你要乘以14亿这个大数，都一定是一笔大生意。
Music to the ears, that is, to the global companies, which by nature are constantly looking for the best business potential and the biggest investment returns, especially now amid all uncertainties.
The fact that we have so many companies here really demonstrates just how important this cooperation is. And so the companies really hope that the two governments can work out their differences in a way that leads to benefits to people everywhere on both sides of the Pacific, but also around the world.
China is our biggest and most important market, and we're investing 14 billion into new products, new technologies, with partners also here in China. You can count on China. Invest in China, and you have a chance, if you're competitive, to get a return.
Takeda in the last 5 years launched 15 new medicines in China, which is much more than the previous 25 years. This is because the team here did a fantastic job, but it's also because the environment has completely changed.
All of them are committed to China for the long term. But it is also true that these days, businesses are super observant and sensitive to changes in different markets, as well as to political and business climate. It is clear coming out of the pandemic that China needs to provide enough clues for global companies to stay the course by answering these crucial questions. Can investments and efforts here deliver great results? How much uncertainties can businesses deal with? How important is China now and in the future, and why? And China responded by combining high-level diplomatic engagements with important business stakeholders, drafting targeted regulatory reforms and market-stabilizing policies, encouraging domestic consumption, supporting private businesses, and with the emergence of DeepSeek and its open-source approach, this amply demonstrated that China's innovation is not only among the best in the world, but also that it's willing to share it with the rest of the world by making smart changes. In retrospect, all these messages have been well received, but that it will not be sufficient without a more sound and stable trade and business environment worldwide after decades of globalization.
What has created growth? What has created wealth? One of the reasons, and a very big reason, is markets opening up. In spite of these protectionistic trends, that policymakers don't forget what got us to this successful position in the first place.
We need to build bridges and not to build walls. If we got barriers along the way, it's not supportive to economic growth. And if there is no economic growth, it's difficult to get social growth.
Spring has come to Beijing as the China Development Forum is being held in 2025. With the crowd embracing another fruit blossom, one would hope that all the plans and efforts will lead to decisive actions and bear great fruit. We see this year, China and the EU are going to celebrate a significant anniversary. In that regard, what's likely to be the role of the business community?
I think this is a big milestone, 50 years of working together. And if you look at where we were 50 years ago and you compare today, our economies are very, very closely linked together. So I think we should use that as a platform to think about how do we develop this into the future? How do we create economic win-wins? It's already so connected that the auto industry, and especially global companies like Mercedes-Benz, we are in all the big economies. Mercedes operates in 150 countries. China is our biggest and most important market. So let's use this anniversary to see how can we work closer and stronger together in the future. And we're investing 14 billion into new products, new technologies with partners also here in China. We're going to industrialize more vehicles also in China. And it's not just our passenger car division. We have an operation for our vans also in Fujian province. And we're in the process of introducing a complete new vehicle architecture for the vans that we will industrialize also here in China. So it is a very, very broad strategy for Mercedes-Benz in China and also China for the world. I had the chance last night to meet Minister Wang from MOFCOM, and also today to meet Party Secretary Yin from Beijing, which is our home here, our main home here in China. And they sent a very strong message. They said, China is open for business. China is opening up. You can count on China. Invest in China, and you have a chance, if you're competitive, to get a return.
通过加大投入力度、优化资源配置等等，鼓励各类企业在新领域、新赛道大胆探索。我们将深入实施通过加大投入力度、优化资源配置等等，鼓励各类企业在新领域、新赛道大胆探索。我们将深入实施人工智能加行动，赋能千行百业，建立未来产业投入增长机制，设立国家创业投资引导基金，扩大科技创新和技术改造再贷款规模，推动企业加快创新，促进新技术、新模式、新增长点持续涌现。这是 我从科技发展这个视角来看中国经济。脱钩断链只能加重危机，打压遏制终将损人害己。如果世界重回弱肉强食的丛林法则，那将是历史的倒退，人类的脱钩断链只能加重危机，打压遏制终将损人害己。如果世界重回弱肉强食的丛林法则，那将是历史的倒退，人类的悲剧。中国作为负责任的大国，将坚定地站在历史正确的一边，公平正义的一边，在时代风浪当中当大义，行正道，坚持经济全球化的正确方向，践行真正的多边主义，努力做全球和平发展事业的稳定性、确定性的力量。任何产品和服务，你要乘以14亿这个大数，都一定是一笔大生意、大买卖、大市场。哪吒2的票房已经高达150亿元，整个冰雪季，中国的游客人数和旅游收入同比去年增长了20%以上。DeepSeek 在春节前夕横空出世，语数科技机器人在春晚舞台上火爆出圈。这些创新成果的出现，我认为并不是偶然的，而是源于我们中国对创新发展的长期专注。今年我们将经济增长目标设定为5%左右，这既是源于对中国经济基础条件的深刻把握，也源于对我们自身治理能力和未来发展潜力的坚定信心。当今世界经济碎片化加剧，不稳定、不确定上行，脱钩断链只能加重危机，打压遏制终将损人害己。中国将继续坚定不移推进开放合作。我们欢迎更多的外资企业投资中国，深耕中国。
他来了。That was one of the most eye-catching moments at the China Development Forum. Steve Daines, a U.S. senator with close ties to President Donald Trump, seen chatting with Apple CEO Tim Cook. And I'm trying to get as close to them as I can.
We're not doing interviews. Thank you very much.
Neither choose to speak to reporters, but their presence spoke volumes. Daines' visit signals that, despite tensions, the U.S. is still open to dialogue with China. And for Cook, being here reaffirms Apple's commitment to the Chinese market, which now accounts for about 20% of the company's total sales. And they're not the only ones sending messages. At the China Development Forum, every handshake, every speech, every presence carries meaning. And I'm here to find out what key messages are conveyed this year.
Now the opening ceremony is about to begin, and is undoubtedly the best place to capture the central message of the forum.
Chinese Premier Li Qiang took the stage at the opening ceremony, highlighting China's strong economic momentum. His clear message: China is open for business and committed to multilateralism.
In the face of global challenges, we will act with integrity and pursue the right path. China remains committed to the correct course of economic globalization and to practicing true multilateralism.
Many attending guests expressed resonance with Premier Li's remarks.
I think he talked about is
Going forward in the long run, Chinese government has a lot of toolboxes, has a lot of ample space in their toolbox to reinvest, to reboost the economy. That gives us a kind of a high level of confidence that
he talked about many things. I like very much the importance that they give to cooperation, because for us in the emerging markets, developed countries, without cooperation, international cooperation, is very difficult.
Senior executives from over 80 multinational companies across 21 countries are attending the forum. Most of their companies have a significant presence in China, making it a key part of their global strategy.
Our long-term confidence in China is reflected in our continued investment. Over the past 5 years, we have invested more than 4.3 billion renminbi as a representative of Thai business community. We strongly believe that China is the future.
We are providing technology for the green transition. What China is doing is very aligned with our global strategy.
Up there are some of the companies attending this year's CDF. At 27, the United States has the largest number of participating companies. This highlights that despite the ongoing geopolitical tensions, the world's top two economies still remain intertwined. And many companies do wish business can remain just that, business.
I'm a simple technologist. I don't do politics. I invent things.
Of so many U.S. CEOs and coming to China shows there's a great desire to continue to have a vibrant relationship and to continue to find ways for the two countries to work together.
While speeches and statements take the central stage, the unspoken message is perhaps the most powerful one. In a divided world, the willingness to engage, negotiate, cooperate, and find common ground remains. And that's the message bringing everyone together at the China Development Forum. Cao Shipeng, CGTN, Beijing.
One word for China's economy. Which one? What's up, guys? I'm at the China Development Forum in Beijing. But today, I'm not alone. I got keywords about China's economy. I'm gonna ask all the big names, which one do they think got the biggest market potential? Watch the video and see the final result. Well, beginnings are always a bit messy. Hi, sir. Feel free to pick one.
We hear a lot about the application of AI at the moment, both for consumer purposes, but also industrial AI. This is a way of unleashing new potential for growth in China's economy, and hopefully also in the world economy as well.
Patient capital.
Patient capital, so feel
We
free.
are in it for a long haul. We're not a short-term asset holder. We believe in the long-term development of China.
I know he's real about it. Talking about commitments, huh?
This one?
Consumer economy.
Physical AI. I would go there. AI from an innovation and technology point of view. Patient capital to develop infrastructure and things like AI. And then as a result of all that, you get the gazelles or the unicorns.
Let's sprinkle in some wise karma. Do the good results guaranteed. Oh, Mr. Allen, I see him holding up a seesaw between China and the U.S.
The way I look at it is that the Chinese economy has many challenges and many opportunities. So we need to be balanced.
Yeah, so answer would be balance, right?
Balance.
Yeah, balance. CEO of Schneider, I bet he's going to say something about AI.
So I would say physical AI, bring the benefits of AI to everything around us.
Yeah, we got it. AI indeed.
Put also energy transition, which is not here. And this one is for energy transition, and I put it green because it has to be green.
Nobody wins a tariff war. I don't think the tariff war produced benefits for the U.S. I think it was a loss. I would say hope for peace.
Hope for peace. There's got to be the real MVP of words. It's simple, it's beautiful. So I choose it to sum up this video. Yeah, thank you. So here we go, our final result. Is it the same as what you expected? Tell me in the comments.
We have to recognize that the world's economy is in the midst of a massive transformation, which is driven by many aspects. And one of the most important ones might be technology and artificial intelligence in particular. You call it AI. That holds true for China as well, and China gave the answer for where growth would come from.
Messages that we got is China is open for business, China is set for growth, China is focusing on innovation in all verticals, but also in the green economy. And we now have a 360-degree strategy for China. In the next years, we're investing no less than 14 billion RMB into innovation, new technology, and a whole host of new cars.
今年以来，我国经济延续回升向好态势，一季度有望实现良好开局。我们的宏观政策还有较大的逆周期调节空间，我们有信心乘势而上。
I think the word for me is imperative, because I think it's not a choice. You have to be in China if you want to be successful. So it's an imperative, it's a destiny, it's something you have to do. For us, it's a must.
I think understanding policy and making sure that that's consistent with business strategy and an intense focus on the customer and their needs is the key to success everywhere in the world, including China.
Opening up, as we all know, from my perspective, I think China is a wonderful opportunity for many corporations around the world. If you are thinking of whether it's consumer products or manufacturing products, China consists of a very big customer base. So from an investment perspective, to me, it has to be one of the best investment location for international corporations. So I always believe that China will do well.
I think the one word for describing what foreign investors will look for to be successful in China is predictability. Because I think if you're investing in an economy which is big, which is complicated, which is probably a long way away from your home markets, you need to be able to plan well in advance. You need to be able to know what is going to happen. You need to have some sense that in 5 years' time you have some idea of the economic, political, regulatory environment in which you're going to be working. So I think predictability is really important.
I think it's fair and equitable competition. Yeah, not having what also Premier Li yesterday said, don't have a vicious cycle of competition. For me, looking at fair market access means also to be transparent about the processes. It's about, really helping every company here in China to protect their IP, because also not only foreign companies but also local companies are now generating more and more through innovation IP. So that is also part of an equitable competition, that what you have developed you can really own and can really leverage.
The most important is confidence, and Premier Li has delivered an excellent speech, very clear, very cogent and well organized, and all about building confidence among international investors in the Chinese economy and in the stewardship of the Chinese government in shaping that economy, not just on behalf of people of China, but on behalf of global prosperity.
Steve, what messages did you pick up from the speech this morning made by the Premier and your outlook on China-US relations at this point?
Well, the Premier demonstrated that the Chinese leadership knows what to do in terms of improving the Chinese economy. I think some of the suggestions that he had in the speech were very imaginative. For instance, the very long-term bond that he said he would do, I think he said 400 billion RMB issuing of that, and that would be used to enhance consumer spending. To the extent that consumer spending increases, we will see a drop in China's export surplus, which is a good thing for U.S.-China relations. So I listened to his speech, and I said, hey, this is probably good for U.S.-China relations, because the extent that the Chinese economy improves, U.S. exports to China can improve. That can reduce the U.S.-China trade, in the case of U.S. deficit, in the case of China's surplus, and that will lead to improved U.S.-China relations.
How do you think about Chinese companies' innovation in AI? I mean, overall.
And I think we are just at the beginning of an inflection point. We expect to see an upgrade cycle on AI smartphones, and I think a lot of our Chinese partners are really excited about embracing AI at the edge. So
how do you think about China's growth target of around 5% GDP growth?
Look, in general, I think technology is going to play a very important role, and we're excited about the roadmap ahead.
Thank you. I love China.
China is open for business, and China is set for growth.
He was talking about all of the breakthroughs in Chinese technology in now entertainment field with blockbusters, in advanced robotics. All of that is going to be the key for China's continued rapid development and China's continued huge benefit for the whole world economy.
Well, it was very encouraging, and it was encouraging to hear it directly. And I like the fact that economic growth is a focus.
And if these policies get adopted, we will see real improvement in the Chinese economy, and we will probably see a pickup in consumer spending.
Well, trade-in policy started last year, so we welcome that intensely because obviously we can benefit from the trade-in consumption policy that was there. That's extended into this year as well. So again, more spend for trade-in and raising consumption levels is a positive sign. I think there's still more to be done, particularly in the luxury segment. We don't see the full benefit yet of all of those consumption policies. But I think the policies that were taken last year and continued into this year, I think are very, very good signs to improve consumer confidence.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's very valid topics. But as I said, we are long-term here. So we have been here for 60 years, and we're planning to be here for another 60 years. So we are thinking very long-term, and that we think suits China very well.
We see with the deep-seek innovation, but you have to be very fast. Everybody talks about China speed, so you have to pick up speed on the innovation side. You have to be nimble in terms of how you do the sourcing, what supply partnerships you develop.
One area China is leading in is in robotics. And so we would like to run some future experiments, look for that in the news in the future, to set up automated laboratories that are controlled by people using AI and then automatically running experiments without the human hand.
The most innovative economies are the U.S. and China. That's why we have so many companies here, because they recognize the importance for their own innovation, for their own dynamism, and for their own global competitiveness.
We're ready to invest in China. We're set for growth. Building the Mercedes-Benz business here in China, we're investing 14 billion renminbi in the next years for a whole new set of products and technologies. So we look positively towards the Chinese growth perspective. AstraZeneca, the big pharmaceutical company, has just announced a $2.5 billion investment into China. So in some sectors it's going up. China's going through an economic cycle, and it will emerge stronger and better and faster and more innovative than ever. On a long-term basis, we believe that we will continue to integrate Chinese companies going global, global companies coming to China. This theme, I think, is going to be the theme of the next 20 or 30 years.
China is open for business and
坚持经济全球化的正确方向。
committed to multilateralism. Senior executives from over 80 multinational companies across 21 countries.
I think he talked about is going forward in the long run, Chinese government has a lot of toolboxes, has a lot of ample space in their toolbox to reinvest, to reboost the economy. That gives us a kind of a high level of confidence that
he talked about many things. I like very much the importance that they give to cooperation, because for us in the emerging markets, developed countries, without cooperation, international cooperation, is very difficult.
Our long-term confidence in China is reflected in our continued investment. Over the past 5 years, we have invested more than 4.3 billion renminbi. As a representative of Thai business community, we strongly believe that China is the future.
We are providing technology for the green transition. What China is doing is very aligned with our global strategy.
I'm a simple technologist. I don't do politics. I invent things.
Of so many U.S. CEOs and coming to China shows there's a great desire to continue to have a vibrant relationship and to continue to find ways for the two countries to work together.
Can China reach the 5% growth target?
Absolutely.
You are confident in China?
Yes, I remain a raging bull.
I think very positively about the Chinese market. It is a source and engine for the world of global growth. Global growth elsewhere is slowing, so China's strength is very important for the global economy.
I think the mood is cautiously optimistic. China is staying very firmly on specific messaging and providing a measure of clarity and consistency in the global economy at the moment that is not necessarily coming from other capital cities.
The last sentence is quite important, is that China is looking forward, the certainty is quite important, that we will give the world the confidence to grow. We already announced that we will extend our investment in Shenyang and Shanghai, so we already started.
We have seen growth throughout in China. It's a very ambitious target, but the high confidence is actually what we are planning with as well. So it feels like there's spring in the air from an economic point of view, and the whole world is growing.
Very critical. China has got everything it takes to grow in the future. The size of the economy, the size of the population, excellent infrastructures that are second to none, investment power, and a highly skilled workforce, great education, and great work ethics. So all of those are extremely positive elements that will continue to make China a growth engine to the world economy.
China is one of the most important innovation markets. Meanwhile, we see genuine innovations happening in China. And that's what we are doubling down on. We continue in our investment in China.
Now in AI, and just fundamentally different and cheaper ways of delivering these very, very powerful outcomes. We see in the new economy sectors around EVs, battery technology, clean tech or climate change related technologies, where China has really taken a leading edge, taken the leading positions in terms of developing new technologies. This is really good for the world.
We see with the DeepSeek innovation only a couple of months ago that through intelligence, you can just jump to the next level. So I'm very, very excited about the opportunities that artificial intelligence gives our customers and gives us.
Chinese government at all levels is creating, I think, such a favorable business environment for foreign investment. So for our company, Amway, we are very confident in the future of China. China is our largest market.
Well, we are delighted to see the momentum, the commitment behind common prosperity, the commitment behind consumer growth, and the commitment behind science, and all of that in a sustainable way.
I've been to China many times. It's my first time to the China Development Forum.
This is the 12th time I participate into the China Development Forum.
That's a trade-in program, and I think that's a good sponsorship for consumption.
For us, the opportunity is to penetrate all the cities.
That we are opening up an organic farm in the Sichuan province, and so we will have a groundbreaking of that in the next several months.
The places where we invest is the places where we do R&D, where we do manufacturing.
We continue to look at anti-aging products. We continue to invest into research and development capabilities.
We are developing with China green hydrogen. We want to, develop the supply chain of desalination in China.
We're prioritizing what we've always prioritized in China, which is to support our Chinese clients who are operating internationally, support international clients who are operating or may want to operate in China.
We will be investing about $75 billion in China between renewable, water desalination, and green hydrogen. And we are here looking for more partners, more friends in China to join us in sharing these investments. And hopefully, from what we heard today, the government policies, they're very welcoming. They made us feel more comfortable about investing in China.
We've got in China, we've got 22 net zero factories. We've got 19 factories which have been certified as green by the Ministry of Information and Industry Technologies. So all of this shows that you can apply technology on new factories, new buildings, new data centers, new cities, but more so, you can use with a lot of profit technology to upgrade existing infrastructure.
What is your advice for European companies to seize China's huge market?
They should have come here more to learn directly from Li Chang and from other speakers and analyze and see for themselves. European companies don't really know China very well. So they need to come, spend time, and understand with their own eyes about the society in China. You cannot just read a report that says 5%. They need to come here and look with their own eyes.
So, Chairman Zipse, welcome back to Beijing and welcome back to CDF. So, listening to the Premier's speech at CDF and also the recently concluded 2 sessions, what are your major takeaways from number one, China's economic outlook, and also China's economic direction? What policy signals did you pick up?
Right. The 2 sessions more or less confirmed what we've been thinking all the way about China. First of all, that growth is very important, and it was confirmed that there's a growth target of larger than 5%. And the second is that it wants to contribute to societal development in a global context. And BMW is a global company. We're vividly connected with global supply chains. Many of them have some part also located here in China. Let's take vehicle batteries, for example. We have companies like CATL or EVE, where we develop, plan, and manufacture cells for our vehicles in China, but also outside of China. So it reconfirms that there's progress. We now, which was also talked about, we have to switch now from a supply side economy to a demand side economy to support more demand. So overall, I think there was a very positive notion we saw there.
BMW has been in China since the 1990s, 1994, I believe.
Yeah, more than 30 years.
Has been more than 30 years. What has the China market meant to BMW? And what do you think it will mean to China going forward, given China's social, societal, economic, and democratic shifts?
Well, it's today our greatest, by far, our biggest single market we had. In the midterm, I remain optimistic because it's still the biggest car market in the world. And the mobility rate in China for its 1.4 billion inhabitants is still fairly low. So compared to Europe or the United States, there's still a large a gap which can be fulfilled. The second positive thing, I think, is it's a highly innovative market. So it's not only about this market, it's also about developing something here for the world, the whole technology export business, where we can profit from that also in Germany or other parts of the world. So generally we're still positive, and we invest here, and we want to be part of that society here as well.
For this opening ceremony, I think companies are interested in a couple of things. And I think that the first thing companies are concerned about is what's happening in the macroeconomy. And so I thought there was an effective discussion about where does China think the economy is and what's it doing to help it move it forward. The second part was the reform agenda that you alluded to. You know, what are we going to do with biotech and internet and these types of things? And the fact that we have so many companies here really demonstrates just how important this cooperation is. And so the companies really hope that the two governments can work out their differences in a way that leads to benefits to people everywhere on both sides of the Pacific, but also around the world. And so that's where I think they're putting their efforts is how do we help the two countries get along and how do they work more productively?
As a company that is directly linked to your consumers, tell me more about what's your take on the latest China action plan to encourage consumption.
I think it's a great news for the industry. China is a huge consumer market and has a lot of potential supporting consumption. Certainly the best news for the consumer goods industry. We are the leaders in this industry, so we will take advantage of that great opportunity that the government package will be offering to our industry. So exciting about China, the size of the consumer market, the fact that the consumer is very open to innovation, new flavors, new products. So that's exciting, but it's also demanding because we have to move at the pace of the Chinese consumer. We see China as a prime location for developing new products, new services, and taking advantage end-to-end from farm to fork of AI technology.
How important is China for Germany now?
China is a world leader and a big economy. So I think one of the things which I alluded to earlier is that as the world is changing and as maybe Europe is realizing that alliances are being redefined to some extent, I think that Europe should also be ready and open up towards, there's a debate in Europe where we need to basically build relationships with the rest of the world, also the global south.
You see China's economy, it is gaining momentum.
I think these recent consumption-related activities, I think, are important, and but the problem is they take time, and it's also a matter of trust. The saving rate is, I think, 50% in China, so it's very high. But I think still the supply side of China is very impressive. You look at recent developments in AI and the dynamicism also in the car industry. I think the country, if it manages this trust and confidence issue well, then I think there's quite a lot of fundamentals in China, given that the situation stays stable, which I think it will, that this country is going to make a major contribution. From a European point of view, I think China could be very well a partner, where we could work together more on some of these, developing some of these technologies, assuming that the level playing field is there.
Should Europe re-examine the kind of nature of relationship it earlier decided to have with China?
I think now it's being reassessed for the developments which are taking place. But I think that a more constructive relationship, a multipolar world is something we should move towards. And economic relationship, look at trade or investment over many, many years has been very strong.
Your colleague from Asia Pacific once said, for Tapestry and your brands, China is not just a market, but a source of inspiration, breakthroughs, innovation breakthroughs, and fashion innovation. How would you characterize the importance of the China market to your brands?
The China market is critically important to our brands. We learn so much in this market. This is a market where the consumer moves incredibly fast. The consumer is the most digitally engaged consumer that we have. And as we meet the demands of this consumer with innovation, we are better able to serve the rest of the world with those innovations. You mentioned live streaming, but also through partnerships with digital platforms here in China. Another great example is in sustainability. The consumer in China is very interested in sustainable products. And last year we introduced Coachtopia, which is a fully circular sub-brand of the Coach business. And we've seen tremendous response from the Chinese consumer to that product. And we're taking learnings from Coachtopia, the sub-brand, and applying it across our portfolio to all of our brands. Well, we've taken the learnings from the digital platforms and the experience that we have reaching consumers in that way and applied them to our own digital platforms in the United States and in Europe, where we have also robust digital business. We're taking learnings from how to connect with them, how we merchandise our sites, to how we transact and where we transact. You know, what's interesting is some of these platforms, the consumer has a different intent. In one platform, it may be a social platform where they want to discover brands and hear more about brands. There may be another platform, maybe on Tmall, where they want to transact and buy the product. So we want to make sure that we provide the best experience for the consumer based on what their needs are on each individual platform. And that research really started here in China for us.
Mr. Cook, how do you see U.S. tariffs? How do you see U.S. tariffs? How do you see U.S. tariffs on China? Will that affect Apple's business? How Apple will navigate with the tariff?
Can you talk to us about what are the new and exciting R&D products in the pipeline, given China's demographic and medical needs that are ever evolving?
Yeah, very important point. We are very much focusing on chronic disease management. So we're looking diabetes, cardio, but also thyroids and oncology. So we're bringing a lot of new pipeline from oncology to China, but we're also developing here locally with partners. We have been developing in that space products here for China together. Beyond that, when you think about life science and taking AI again, what is more and more important is that you do really precision medicine. So really customized medicine by person. You're really diagnosing now with the help of AI, what is your problem so that you really get a customized treatment. And in that space, for example, also to develop new solutions to your problem, you use AI. So we have programs where you can, we call them Edison, we call them Cynthia, where you can very quickly go through millions of potential molecules and decide then, with AI help, which one would be the right pathway to go.
Precision medicine.
Yeah,
that sounds so promising, and
yes, and that's
avoiding all the side effects potentially.
Yes, exactly. So it's really finding the best pathway, and not only for in terms of R&D development, but ultimately we believe we will have a very customized individual treatment need, not only in China but globally. The other area we see where we can support is really elderly care. Right, you have in China, from a demographics point of view now, in 2035, 400 million people, what the government called the silver economy, where we can also support, right? Each of them will need customized treatment, care, at home most likely, and think about combining that with robotics, humanoid robotics. So these are areas we're working on.
Hi, Mr.
Hello,
Horn.
nice to meet you.
Meeting you. Thanks for joining us on
Thanks for
CBT
having me.
today. Mr. Horn, how do you assess the current state of China's innovation, especially with the AI research and development?
I think it's a very unique ecosystem consisting of government support, a lot of small companies which take an idea and very fast try to scale it, very flexibility in terms of building a new network, and a very strong customer focus. And in that combination, incredible fast, the speed of innovation, scaling it up and very cost efficient. And for us, we believe that this will be very important for the China transformation.
How is Merck integrating artificial intelligence into its daily R&D processes and leverage local resources, especially in the areas of life sciences and pharmaceuticals?
We do believe it will play a very important role. When you think about discovering new molecules, you have a lot of data. With the help of AI, you can much faster go through the data to find out what is the ideal molecule, what is the pathway to develop it further, and what is the most cost-efficient way to do it. We're looking much more nowadays at a customized treatment for each individual person. So here, looking at your individual data and with the help of AI, then to figure out what's the best treatment for you will be very important. So in that space, in R&D, in healthcare, we are very excited. When we talk about China for China, it's not only about that we develop your products for the market, but really sourcing also innovation. And also not only for Chinese market, but ultimately for the global market. Take sustainability, we have companies like China Resource or Envision helping us with green energy supply and energy management. We have a lot of cooperations now with academia and local startup companies in the life science space to think about precision medicine, thinking about elderly care, thinking about the next biopharma treatment. So yes, we are really trying to leverage as much as possible the local ecosystem.
The main takeaway is that there's a lot happening in China right now, and there's confidence in the growth target of 5%. What is interesting for me to observe is the innovative part, that how much that actually drives growth nowadays, and the Premier gave some really good examples on that.
So what is your view on China's growth target of 5%, and how does that influence the global demand for resources?
The whole world is growing. China is growing at a high rate. 5% is a lot for an economy the size of China. But we follow it, of course, every day because we are selling our products into China. We see that growth, and it looks realistic. The growth is changing from traditionally we have been very much the supplier to the steel industry. Steel demand will continue to be important, but you see as well the whole green development with solar, electrical vehicles, etc., provides a lot of new demand for aluminium, copper, and battery materials, and we are becoming very big in battery materials.
And China has just wrapped up its policy meeting, the 2 sessions, which outline a lot of priorities for the country's development. What do you think are most interesting, and where do you see the future investment opportunities?
Look, for us, a good economy in China is very good. We sell a significant part, even actually more than half of our revenue goes into China. So in general, growth is good. And what we see out of the 2 sessions and what I heard from the Premier this morning is that we see more consumer-driven demand, which leads to growth of the economy. And we also see that the property sector has stabilized and is in a better shape than last year. That's very important for us.
Well, China's new energy industry and electric vehicle sector are growing very fast. What new partnerships do you foresee in these emerging new industries?
Yeah, so we have just 2 weeks ago finalized a major acquisition of one of the world's largest lithium companies. So we have become a major player in lithium. That is, of course, key materials for batteries and for the EVs. So we see new customers, we see new demand, and the growth rate is amazing. The sale of EVs in January, February is up more than 50% compared a year ago. And that means the demand for lithium is going up as well.
As a leader of a multinational professional services firm operating both here in China and of course the U.S. markets, how is PwC advising your clients to navigate the evolving U.S.-China economic relationship? What strategic adjustments do you consider critical for multinational cooperations amid rising trade barriers and these so-called de-risking policies?
Well, I think the US-China dynamic is just one facet of a changing global environment, and our multinational clients are having to navigate very uncertain times at the moment. And so our advice is for them to take a data-driven view and actually look at the differences between short-term challenges and longer-term opportunities, because there are still really good long-term opportunities. Advanced manufacturing and high-tech, the foreign direct investment into China is actually still increasing. And there are other areas, like we've heard about today, a lot of opening up into the service sectors, finance, biotech, pharmaceuticals, all these areas are untapped potential, and there's a lot of long-term opportunities.
And as you have mentioned, like foreign direct investment into China actually sees increase. And from PwC's latest global CEO survey, business leaders are actually pretty confident in the China market and even more confident in China regarding geopolitical tensions or external influences such as trade and conflicts. Why is that?
Yes, our recent survey actually showed that CEOs across the world see China as one of the top areas to invest in. And that's because I think of a few things. Firstly, companies who are operating in China have been operating in uncertain environment for a long time. They've actually become resilient to managing trade disputes and supply chain shocks. So they're quite resilient, both domestic companies in China and multinationals here. But also it's because of the fundamental economics. China is the largest global exporter in the world. In 2024, it's 14% of global exports. And as well as that, it is a huge market. So companies want to be able to invest in China. And they see the opportunity, they see the scale, they see the innovation, and of course they see a fantastic consumer market.
In China, electric vehicles can gain a 20-kilometer charge in just 20 seconds. But some people might miss out on this game-changing technology. Why? Tariffs.
Tariffs are always, in the long term, inflationary.
The trade war, only losers.
Do tariffs help the U.S. economy at all?
No, not at all.
Here at the Dell United States Guest House in Beijing, where China hosts its most prestigious guests, the China Development Forum is underway. Business leaders and scholars from around the world have gathered to discuss the latest development in both global and Chinese economies. One of the hottest topics, trade barriers. Participants are raising concerns over rising tariffs, even as the U.S. appears determined to escalate trade tensions with nearly everyone.
He has not picked exclusively on China. He has gone after Canada, Mexico, the European Union, everyone, not just China.
The Trump administration recently threatened the EU with a 200% tariff on wines and champagne. But here's the catch. Americans love European wines for their affordability and quality. 17% of all wine and liquor consumed in the U.S. comes from Europe. So, who do you think will end up footing the bill to keep their favorite Chardonnay flowing? And in the end, who will pay for that added cost from the tariffs?
The American people.
Ultimately, the consumer will, which is why it will slow growth.
But it's not just about pricier wine. U.S. consumers are also missing out on the latest electric vehicle technology, the very trend shaping the future of transportation. While Tesla dominates headlines, the world's largest EV manufacturer is actually from China. During his first term, Trump imposed a 27% tariff on Chinese cars. President Biden doubled down, raising it to 100%. The result? China's affordable tech-packed EVs and many priced under $30,000 are effectively locked out of the U.S. market.
President Trump calculates that he can use tariffs, inflict more pain on others than the retaliatory tariffs could inflict on the U.S.
But does it truly?
We wait and see.
We see, for example, that advanced manufacturing and high tech, the investment, the foreign direct investment into China is actually still increasing. What we see from clients is actually that the US and China have distinct and quite complementary developments in technology and actually generate benefits for both countries and for economic growth in both countries.
The US and China employ starkly different trade strategies to advance global influence. China grants zero tariff to least developed countries with established diplomatic relations, boosting market access to poorer countries. The US wields tariff as a leverage to counter trading imbalances, protect industries, and challenge practices like IP theft, prioritizing dominance but risking fragmentation and accusations of unilateralism.
During that European Parliament speech, China is not an enemy.
China is just a success story. That's why it is viewed by the United States as an enemy, because China is a bigger economy than the United States.
That we thought that was brilliant.
China has a key characteristic. It's got 1.4 billion people. The United States has 335 million people. China is therefore roughly 4 times the population. China is not going to remain below 1/4 of the U.S. size per person. Therefore, it's going to be a bigger economy. This is arithmetic. This is the logic of China's success. Trade with the U.S. and China during the past 40 years, and especially since the 1990s, has been mutually beneficial. China's rise has helped the United States to advance. The U.S. has helped China to advance. Yes, there are some places where competition from China has meant fewer jobs in the United States. There are many places where it has meant more jobs. For most of the American people, China's growth has been a big benefit. In trade, when certain sectors or places do get hurt by trade, and that happens, then they should be helped by regional policy or by redistributional policy, by social support. This is how a normal economy behaves. You don't stop the benefits of trade because some small parts of the economy suffer relative to others. When China opened up the economy, it was the eastern part of the country on the coastal areas that benefited the most. So they created very creative ways to promote Western China development so that the benefits of development would also be shared in Central and Western China. That was a regional development policy that has been quite successful. The United States doesn't have such a policy. If we were as clever as China in its management of such issues, we would be much less protectionist. Trump is appealing to protectionism for particular parts of the American economy, neglecting the fact that the overall U.S. economy is a big beneficiary of U.S.-China open trade.
There needs to be different levels of talks and interactions among the government on both sides. How much do you see that is taking place right now?
Those are not going on enough yet, but they will over time. I think when policies become clearer, I think the militaries need to make sure that they're having lots of contact so there's not an inadvertent misunderstanding. That would be terrible. So I think in the beginning of every administration in the United States, the contacts become more difficult, and then over time they regularize. And my hope is that will occur.
Some of the quote-unquote sensitive issues, such as artificial intelligence between China and the United States, but everybody understands that is the future.
My great hope is that we will find a way to cooperate on AI, that it's going to change the world. And we're going to need to set up a framework and rules for AI, and that's going to have to be done with China. And if that doesn't happen, it's going to have bad consequences for America, for China, and the world.
What are the starting points? Can we?
Well, we need to start having conversations. The conversations have to be at all sorts of levels.
Yeah.
We need government, we need AI folks, we need businesses, we need the security people, we need all of these people to start having conversations, because kind of the threat and the benefit of AI is actually the same for China as it is for the United States. So are we going to be able to cooperate? My hope is we can, because if we don't, it's a problem.
国务院总理李强23号在京会见来华出席中国发展高层论坛2025年年会的美国联邦参议员戴安斯及部分美国企业界人士。李强表示，今年1月，习近平主席同特朗普总统通电话时强调，中美两国间拥有广泛共同利益和广阔合作空间，可以成为伙伴和朋友，相互成就，共同繁荣，造福两国，惠及世界。打贸易战没有赢家。希望美方同中方更多相向而行， 按照相互尊重、和平共处、合作共赢的原则，坦诚沟通，增信事宜，深化两国务实合作，推动中美关系稳定、健康、可持续发展。美方人士表示，中国近几十年来发生很大变化，美国企业积极参与和支持中国发展，愿继续投资中国，加强对话合作，实现互利共赢，努力推动两国关系持续发展。
中共中央政治局委员、国务院副总理何立峰22号在京分别会见美国联邦参议员戴安斯、新加坡淡马锡董事长林文星一行。会见戴安斯时，何立峰表示，中方坚决反对将经贸。中共中央政治局委员、国务院副总理何立峰22号在京分别会见美国联邦参议员戴安斯、新加坡淡马锡董事长林文星一行。会见戴安斯时，何立峰表示，中方坚决反对将经贸问题政治化、武器化、工具化，愿同美方在相互尊重、平等互利基础上开展坦诚对话，中美可以成为伙伴和朋友，相互成就，共同繁荣，造福两国，惠及世界。戴安斯表示，美中关系非常重要，双方应加强对话，我愿在这方面多做些实事。会见林文星一行时，何立峰表示，中国对外开放的大门会越开越大，营商环境也会越来越好，中新深化合作空间广阔，欢迎淡马锡和其他国际投资者在华投资展业。林文星表示，淡马锡一如既往看好中国发展前景，将继续深耕中国市场。
中共中央政治局委员、国务院副总理何立峰24号在钓鱼台国宾馆会见美国城堡证券创始人格里芬时表示，中国正全面贯彻落实中共20届三中全会和全国两会精神，持续深化资本市场改革，着力推进金融高水平开放，促进经济高质量发展。欢迎包括城堡证券在内的更多外资金融机构来华投资兴业，共享发展机遇。格里芬表示，城堡证券看好中国经济和金融市场发展前景，愿持续扩大在华业务和对华投资，为促进美中经贸合作作出贡献。
也是商务部的老朋友。You are also an old friend of Minister Cox.
我们可以更深入的和务实的进行一些交流沟通。
So today I appreciate this opportunity to have further in-depth and pragmatic conversation with you.
It's great to be among friends. As you know, we've been in China more than 30 years, and where there are companies that have been here longer than that, clearly, I don't think that any have produced as much of a win-win relationship.
I think China is very open. The market is very open. I think we also get tremendous support from local leaders. I was talking about Beijing and our investment in a R&D center. We got very strong support, the guidance, help to find a site and find a building to set up our R&D center. So a lot of support that you don't always get in other countries. So the environment, I find, is very welcoming, personally. And on top of it, there's a lot of investments in innovation. There's a lot of investment in common prosperity, common health, and that is really something that as a company we believe in. So we want to contribute to this. So I think the key is, as long as you give back and you contribute to China economic development, but also common health, then you're very welcome.
China accounts for more than a third of all exports in container terms. So, I mean, there's no country comparable to China when you look at the scale of exports. In spite of all the tension we talk about, China has actually been growing its market share of global export. That, of course, creates some inefficiencies for us because now we have exports that are significantly larger than imports. So I think ideally we will be able to find a way going forward where there's a better balance between what goes out and what comes in. But China definitely takes an absolutely critical position in global supply chains, and I don't think that's going to change.
We certainly see the potential of bringing Chinese manufacturing technology into Australia. So for us, we are utilizing Chinese manufacturing, Chinese technology with the abundance of solar and wind and green energy that we have, which means the dust emissions and the smog because of the carbon dioxide emissions is negated.
The biggest takeaway that I've had from this event is how connected the Chinese government is to its people and serving the people and the needs that will be there, namely in healthcare. As I looked at the priorities and I heard what was put forward, and then coupling that with the technological capabilities and the uniqueness culturally incorporating traditional Chinese medicine, I left with a reinforcement of our innovation strategy to build an ecosystem to be in China for China that is really designed around the individual in their home, as opposed to any other different approach of taking a product from elsewhere and bringing it in.
In fact, in many ways, I think they give the opportunity to strengthen the relationship between Australia and China. So why do I say that? Even if there was a 25% tariff put on them, the fact is, in China, on average, the consumer here pays 1/3 of what an Australian pays for exactly the same item. So how are they able to do that? Well, they have buying power to start off with, and secondly, a lower cost to operate. If you can, through e-commerce, open up access to more products and services, more choice and better prices, even the price of transport and a 25% tariff would still make those products better value. I think, a bit of an observation coming here is that we see an enormous opportunity, and we have heard a lot of people's sensitivities to tariffs and what's happening in the world. But that just makes a greater reason why Australia and China should be working closer together.
There will never be cooperation on climate change with this administration.
The China-US trade tensions are flaring up again, and uncertainty is growing.
China has imposed counter tariffs on a range of U.S. products in response to Washington's decision to impose an additional 10% tariff on all Chinese imports.
But does it mean cooperation is off the table?
I would certainly welcome Chinese investment in the United States. I think that would help balance the trade relationship.
I'm here at the China Development Forum, or CDF, one of China's most high-profile annual economic gatherings. Some attendees believe it's hopeless to see more substantial cooperation between China and the United States.
The Trump administration is very unstable and confused. It's not looking for cooperation with China, which is a big mistake.
Even no cooperation on climate change?
Oh, there will never be cooperation on climate change with this administration, because they're not interested in climate change. Not at all.
But some are hopeful, pointing to a few opportunities in different sectors.
中美两国现在就政治的信任度比较低，在很多的有关国家安全的领域啊，去投资贸易对双方来说呢都是比较敏感。其实 Made in China 他们是向中国购买的商品，如果我们的厂到美国开，从 Walmart 所有的东西，对吧？这些东西都是没有对国家安全一点关系都没有。
One thing is clear. Despite the challenges, the businesses and policymakers on both sides are still looking for ways to engage. Whether it's enough to stabilize the relationship, we will just have to wait and see.
Hopefully, things will smooth out a lot more. The two economies and the global economy are a lot more integrated. We will work with our customers worldwide to ensure that their goods and services are moved.
This is the China Development Forum in Beijing. I've covered it many times already as a reporter, and this year, I want to try something different.
You know, we've been talking about AI replacing journalists for years, and today, I'm putting it to the test.
If you've been following AI news, you've probably heard of DeepSeek, one of China's top-tier AI chatbots. My mission? To see if it can generate a decent report on the tech-related conversations taking place here at the China Development Forum.
Just like a real journalist. All right, let's do it. First things first, context. Here's a breakdown of this year's CDF themes from its website and a full list of participants. DeepSeek's task is to scan through them, research how all of their companies are using AI, and pinpoint the key highlights. This research would have taken me days. Now I'm going to use this AI avatar to narrate what DeepSeek has generated.
Participating companies are leveraging AI across sectors, autonomous vehicles, drug discovery, and sustainable finance, aligning with China's focus on ethical AI, green transition, and inclusive growth. However, challenges like infrastructure gaps and compliance with China's AI regulations remain.
All right, I'm now back at the forum's lobby. Let's talk to participants here about their thoughts on future AI applications.
How do you see it increasing operational efficiency or productivity?
Oh, and the questions were suggested by DeepSeek after it helped me with the research.
Obviously, there's been a massive amount of automation that happened in the past, say, 30 years. And I think the next wave of it is AI-enabled automation.
These are all industrial AI applications, and we have not seen most of it yet. So this is yet to come, and will have a very big effect on productivity, of course, everywhere in the world, but particularly in China, which stays, and will remain the factory of the world too.
Now, the guest said a lot more than in these sound bites. So here are a full transcript of all the interviews. That's long. Summarize other key takeaways for me in under 100 words.
Generative AI is already being used for teaching, content creation, and process management, though its application in manufacturing remains limited. Innovations like DeepSeek demonstrate that LLMs can operate with fewer resources, reducing costs and enabling broader accessibility, akin to the internet's evolution.
And there you have it, folks. AI's first real attempt at taking my job. It definitely handles some tasks way faster than I do, like research and summaries. But for now, its biggest drawback still remains the fact that it cannot physically engage with the world like I do when I interview people. Or is it just a matter of time?